Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of the CW's The 100. This week we've seen Season 3, Episode 13, which was called Join or Die. And this is a really good episode. I highly enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of key plot points, a lot of, moments. One moment in particular, or scene, disturbed me a little bit, I'll admit it. But really, this is a great setup episode because now we're into the final 3 episodes of the season. Of course, going to 16 again this year. And man, it's just been an amazing season. But we'll talk more about that once it's over and stuff, and how it compares and things like that. But this is definitely setting up for something major to end the season, and I just really cannot wait to see what they do with it, because these episodes are already just really fantastic. Man, I love The 100. I could gush about it for a while, but oh wow. I'm even thinking about getting a second poster of the show. Well, I have 2 of The Walking Dead, so why not get 2 of The 100, right? Anyway. So yeah, like I said, the episode's called Join or Die, and the highlights on this episode for me, I'll go through my notes in a minute. As you can see, I took them again. But the highlights of the episode for me in particular, definitely what was going on at the Grounder camp, or now pretty much the A.L.I.E camp, with Kane and Pike. That stuff was really intense. Then, of course, we had, our group of Clarke, Bellamy, Octavia, and Jasper, so out on their own looking for Luna, to give her, the commander-type chip, which contains, the spirits of the previous commanders, like Alexa and others before her. That stuff had some really touching moments, in particular with Clarke and Bellamy in relation to, how the relationship between Octavia and Bellamy has been. We'll talk more about that specifically in a few minutes, though. And another great part to it was also the highlights. I mean, the highlights are the highlights of the episode. But I also really like the flashbacks. It's just always cool to see these types of things with a show like this, just to see the characters, younger and more youthful looking again. It's just really fun in a way. But again, we'll talk more about that specifically in a few minutes. Like I said, like I mentioned, the episode opens with Kane and Pike being taken through a grounder cramp. It starts with Kane and Pike being taken through a grounder camp, and they're taken to Jaha and Abby, of course, who are also with A.L.I.E in their minds anyway. They see her anyway. And I just thought it was a really cool sequence of seeing Kane and Pike walking through there, just to see all the people that were basically crucified, to see the blood of that, and Pike saying, "Oh, you want to make peace with these people?" Yeah. A lot of people are probably hoping Pike would die in this episode. I was almost starting to expect it. But it kind of leads somewhere else at the end. We'll talk more about that later. But just to see how brutal everything looked, and the environment looked really dirty, really, intense. And it probably even could have put, The Walking Dead's hunters to shame, if the Grounders were cannibals anyway. But, then we had the Reapers before. But that part was really cool. And of course, it's a huge thing to see, Pike and Kane together after, the stuff that went down between them. You almost think it's going to be a situation where they're going to have to work together. But that's not quite where it goes. Again, we'll talk more about that as we go. But like I said, they meet up with Jaha, and Jaha, basically just ends up asking both of them to, take the blue chips, to go to the City of Blight. And, of course, Pike refuses. He gets beaten a little bit after he tries to take, the former commander, now that A.L.I.E.'s pretty much in control, but, somehow I always forget the newer commander's name. But, Pike tries to take her hostage, and then he gets beaten down, and after refusing. And then Kane is told to take the chip, and he ends up, throwing it, which I kind of thought it was kind of, which I thought was kind of funny. And then, Jaha says, "Oh, that's not a good idea," and Kane says, "I think it was." And I just like seeing Kane being so aware and intelligent enough to just, not even consider that decision until later, where he's kind of forced into it. But again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And like I said, we also got a lot of flashbacks in this episode as well, mainly revolving around Pike before the 100 were originally sent to the ground. Of course, these were scenes we never got in season 1, because really the Pike character didn't exist until this season. Which people are gonna complain about. Oh, we never seen Pike in season 1 and stuff like that. Well, which we didn't. And really, in a way, maybe they should have, at least had... You would think Pike would have at least been mentioned by the 100 when they're sent down to the ground, especially if he's the one that was, teaching these Earth skills or survival classes to him and stuff. It seems like they would have talked about him once they got there, here and there anyway. But, you just kind of gotta let these things slide. You gotta accept that the writers, kind of have different plans at one time than they will at another time, and things of that nature. And they do such a good job in general, so just cut them some slack. But nonetheless, I did appreciate that they did do these flashbacks. So in a way, we can kind of, whatever was going on with the writers, we can either way kind of just use these flashbacks to fill in those points. It would make sense why Kane and Jaha wouldn't talk about it very much, but yeah, I like these flashbacks. Of course, we see the group. We see Murphy and characters like Murphy, Octavia, and Harper in class, and they're just completely oblivious to what they're actually there for. Pike was told not to tell them what was actually going on or the purpose of why he was teaching them about this stuff, or else he'd be killed, floated. Go float yourself, right? So in a way, at first I thought it was almost trying to paint Pike in a different light, seeing like a different side to him, how he actually wanted to help these kids and wanted to tell them the truth about what's going on. But it sort of takes a slightly darker turn in one of the later flashbacks in the episode, but we'll talk more about it, how I felt about it overall with the Pike stuff once we get to the later flashbacks. But the first one I thought was really good. And like I said, we have Clarke, Bellamy, Octavia, and Jasper, searching for Luna. Octavia sort of following the sketches and notes Lincoln had left behind. We also had another flashback with Murphy. He's, of course, the one just talking back at Pike in class, sort of mocking him. And then, of course, that ties into the present with, Pike being brought into one of the holding cells. Murphy's also in there, so, of course, that's ironic. So it's a little bit more intense when you see them two together. So I thought that worked really well. And then probably even worse for Pike is the fact that Indra's in there, and she's looking to she's seeking vengeance for her people, revenge, and so she basically wants to administer I think it was like 300 cuts or something along those lines, and that was just brutal. And we see just everyone's, looking away and sort of leaving her to her business. She starts cutting Pike across the chest, and she cuts him a couple times before we cut to the next scene. So that was pretty brutal, or was gonna be really brutal had it gone on longer. But it ends up being stopped. But we'll talk more about when that happened in a little bit. And how many times am I gonna say we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes? How many times am I gonna say that? And then, the group's talking around the fire. They end up finding this, gravestone area, and it doesn't really appear to lead to anything. It's abandoned. Octavia's losing hope. She lets out one of her yells, and, Bellamy ends up trying to pick up Lincoln's book, saying, if he wrote about this place or he, drew something about this place, that would have to be important. It would have to lead to something. There would be, something about significant that would, most likely still be there. And of course, Octavia doesn't like Bellamy touching Lincoln's book, and she basically talks about how she can't look at Bellamy anymore. Every time she looks at Bellamy, she sees Lincoln being shot and falling into the water and stuff like that. And then, Bellamy sort of asks, okay, how long are you going to be, pissed at me? How long is it going to take for you to forgive me? He didn't really say that directly, but he was just sort of asking her how long or how much longer is this going to go on for. And, Bellamy sort of counters by saying, she should have accepted his help originally, because if you guys remember, Bellamy was initially trying to come up with his own plan, and Octavia didn't want to go about it his way. She was already refusing his help. So, I understand Octavia's grief and her mourning and her attitude and, behavior right now. But I was saying this back when the episode initially went down, that she probably should have went with Bellamy's plan. Had she went with Bellamy's plan, maybe it wouldn't have worked out. But at the same time, maybe it wouldn't have put Lincoln in as much of a spot as it ended up putting him in with what Octavia decided to do and how she decided to go about it. So maybe it's not completely Bellamy's fault as much as she's trying to put it on him. But sure, he has some influence on it, obviously. And Clarke and Bellamy sort of talk about that later. But still, I think Bellamy had a point there, and it was something I was thinking, a few episodes ago. Then green fire is what I wrote in the notes, and basically ends up being a signal fire, and we see these people come out of the water. They're almost like pointing like harpoons or like crossbow type things, which is kind of cool. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Abby, under A.L.I.E.'s influence, of course, she tries to basically seduce Kane or, manipulate him and talk him into, giving up where Clarke and the others are hiding out. Now, I'm not sure if Kane knows exactly where they're at this point, but he probably does have an idea of, what they're trying to do. And I also, I liked again how the writers are, let Kane be able to catch on to this, his awareness, his intelligence again coming through here. And Abby basically ends up jumping him and trying to have sex with him as a tool. Pun kind of intended. Sort of. I'm not very funny. I'm just weird and anyway. But Kane ends up shoving her off, and then he realizes she had taken the ship, and Kane ends up being dragged away. And then we get this scene between Clarke and Bellamy, which I had mentioned at the beginning of the video. And Clarke sort of goes to talk to Bellamy to he sees the pain he's in, and of course these two still share a really strong bond. Even through everything, even through Clarke leaving, which they talk about as well. Bellamy says how angry he was at Clarke for leaving initially, but then he sees them sort of disconnecting again, which I thought was really nice. And then Clarke talks about how Octavia will forgive Bellamy eventually. She just needs time. Sort of, trying to make Bellamy feel a little bit less guilty about what happened. Saying he didn't want Lincoln to die. He didn't directly do it. He even tried to help. He tried to stop it. Whether it was for everyone's sake or just for his sisters, he still tried to do something about it. It's just something Octavia is going to need to realize, again, connecting to that point of how he initially tried to come up with a plan of his own that she refused, and it, may have in part led to that. What occurred with Lincoln, of course. So I thought that was a really good scene when you see the two of them hug, which is really nice. I still think, I don't talk too much about shipping on my channel, but Clarke and Bellamy, I think it's endgame. I think it should be. It's not just, I just want to see them, kissing and stuff like that. I really feel like it'd be natural if these two characters eventually connected like that. I just think they build a really strong bond, and if it happened, it'd feel really natural and really organic. But again, we could talk about that in a separate video, really. Not now.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. I already talked about the men rising from the water. At first, they're really questioning our group, and then Octavia mentions Lincoln. His name carries respect, so they unbound them and take the gags out. And then basically they're showing this green liquid, and it reminds you of the chip thing right away. Of course, Jasper is immediately suspicious of it, but of course Octavia trusts completely in what Lincoln was telling them to do, and where he was telling them to go in the book. And so she just chugs it down. And then Jasper decides to do the same, and then once he sees Octavia fall and go unconscious from it. He says, "Oh God, I don't know," before he collapses. I thought that was kind of funny. And I'm glad that we have, Jasper back. He's still damaged more than ever. He's still, a little more serious than he used to be. But he's still, that life in him, that light in him is coming out again. And, I just think it's been a really cool process this season, even if he was frustrating early on. And someone even says I look like Jasper. But hey, I'll take it. Then, of course, Clarke and Bellamy are the most suspicious of taking that stuff, but they both end up doing it and sort of, sitting down and, falling unconscious together, which is nice. We get another flashback of, Pike, sort of trying to teach the kids a hard lesson, in their Earth Skills class. He beats Murphy, just sort of tries to push him to act and, for the others to act and do something to help. And, I think it was Miller ends up, almost knocking Pike out with, like, a pipe or something. And then, of course, Kane and the others eventually get in. And, again, that was one of the more harsher things that Pike went about, like I kind of talked about early in the video. But at the same time, we have a little bit of a different perspective on Pike now, I guess. More of an understanding of how he initially started off so harsh from where we met him in Season 3 and stuff like that. And what kind of spot he was put in initially before the 100 were sent down. So, I don't want to say I like Pike now, but I don't know, it's hard to say. He's going to die. That's not really a question. Although some say he's actually going to make it into Season 4. I can't really confirm or deny that report or rumor. But I could see how they could maybe develop the character and have him change a little bit. But either way, I don't think he's going to make it out of Season 3. But, if he makes it into Season 4, I don't really see him making it past that either. But anyway, we could talk about that later. Maybe once we actually see how Season 3 ends, right? And just as Indra is about to kill Pike in the present again with the cuts thing, Murphy brings up, she needs to think about whether she wants her personal revenge, even though it's for, over 300 people dead. But, think about her revenge and her quest for vengeance, or the safety of the rest of her people who are still alive. And basically Indra is, saving revenge for another day, so she'll probably try to kill Pike, probably at some point after they do escape. And Pike sort of gives Murphy a look, like sort of smiling, yeah, that's how you do it. But Murphy sort of brushes it off and saying, you didn't learn anything from him, it's something he learned on his own when they're all sent to the ground. Which is a really cool scene too. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this other scene. I don't think I even wrote this part down because, okay, well, yeah, I did. Okay. But Kane is actually strung up and crucified, for his refusal to take the chip, the way he pushed Abby off and stuff like that. And which is really brutal seeing him nailed into it and just, risen up. It was kind of hard for me to watch because I like Kane so much. He deserves so much more respect than that. But, he got that, which is kind of hard for me to watch. And then, Kane, he's still refusing to take the chip. Just the willpower and the strength of him, which A.L.I.E and, of course, the under control Jaha talk about how much strength and willpower he has. But, of course, the way they finally get him to take the chip is, with Abby being under control on her knees, Jaha aims the gun at her and, basically, I'm going to kill Abby if you don't take it. Kane finally does. Yeah, so this is not good. The kids, are not kids anymore, but, our main group of, Clarke, Bellamy, and the rest of them are going to have a lot to deal with now. With Kane being under control. I was almost hoping he hit under his tongue, he was going to, spit it out when they walked away or something. But, I think there's going to be a way that we get some of the people back, like Jaha, Kane, and Abby, of course. But for now, they have a lot of people in their favor with A.L.I.E. But now it looks like, we see Clarke and the rest of them wake up, and they're on this, oil rig type thing, I want to say, out in the middle of, an ocean or the sea, or maybe a big lake or something, I don't know. Probably not a lake, it's probably, a bigger body of water than that. But they wake up on there, and we meet Luna, who they're searching for, the other A.I, and Clarke asks her to take the, chip to become the next commander, take her birthright. She doesn't want to kill anyone, but Clarke says she doesn't have to. She can choose how she leads. But Luna says no, she refuses. And yes, but that's kind of where the episode ends. I don't really know where it's going to go from here because Luna is like their main hope. Some people are saying maybe Clarke will actually be the commander, like the final main commander in the series or something along those lines somehow, which I think would be really cool, and it would kind of make sense with, Clarke's journey throughout the series so far. I don't know. I could kind of see that happening when she takes it. Then maybe we get another vision of Lexa or something. Alicia Carey did. That'd be really cool. That's just a wild theory. I don't really know where it's gonna go. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the episode. Really good episode. 3 episodes left this season. Of course, it was already renewed for season 4, which is great. Don't really know what's gonna happen in these final 3 episodes, but it's gonna be really intense. I'm really excited to see what they do. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and theprinceWillDead.com. I'll catch you guys next time. Most likely to review this week's episode of Containment, which is really late, but I still want to watch and review it at some point. And then I'm also going to be uploading, a multi-fandom trivia within the next couple days as well. And of course, with tomorrow night being Friday, I'll be watching and reviewing the Vampire Diaries and the originals as usual. So I'll catch you guys for that. And peace.